of races of men, that of birds and all the beings of the universe contain and generate individuals of like form of to their kind. And then yet there are other living kinds of living beings, which are devoid of soul. Indeed, yet not without sensation, so that they are gladdened by all that does them good, and suffer the pain of all that impairs harm to them. Now this is the point I want to get here. The kinds consist of all things are implanted in the soil and spring forth life, which from fix. I'm going to get right to the point right here. I'm going to get right to the point. Let's see if it's on this page, because this is most quintessential to what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to, let's see if it's on another page. I want to find the right page on this thing, because it says that there are another kind of living beings which are devoid of soul. So they say that these humans, these race of men, there are races of men that the Hermetic scripture says that are devoid of soul. Is it on? That are devoid of soul. And they say that there are men with souls and men devoid of soul. Now what we're talking about here is scholarship of the highest quality, because if the European boasts on his Western education, it is the Hermeticus corpus, which is the basis of Western thought. The corpus Hermeticus, which is the wisdom of Tahuti, which is brought up by the Moors, which is also brought up later by later Europeans that got it from Latin and from Greek. And this stuff was wrestled out of the Library of Alexandria. You see, so we're talking about some of the oldest texts in the world. But in this particular book, Hermetica, it says that one of our greatest problems is, this is what the Egyptians are saying, that we created another man. Walter Scott's translation of a Hermetica. What year is this book? Because some of us like the older text. The older text. Hermetica, early works, 1800s. Now I think it was later than that. I think it was done in the 1930s. Walter Scott's work. Walter Scott's work. But this is crucial information. Now, since the Egyptians say in their own words that they created another man, where do we get this from? And what happened? Well, what happened was, well, first of all, I want to read this particular part here. Coming out of ancient Hemmitt, documented geromancy. We talked about this on the first Human Artificial. We'll put this in again as Exhibit A, Exhibit B, or whatever. The Egyptians identified themselves on the mountain of Rut. Now this is coming from the temple of Seti I at Biblium El Maluk. What? I need to go over? No. Oh, blue cup. Oh, okay. Don't worry. Oh, okay. Don't worry. We don't have to be formal and stuff. People seen a lot of our videos, so no.
Keep going, bro.
We don't have to be formal at all on my videos and stuff. You know, this ain't Channel 12. Anyway, the temple of Biblium El Maluk at the temple of Ramesses the Fifth, but it's Ramesses the First, Seti I, but also in Biblium El Maluk, Ramesses the Fifth, you have this stuff. Now this is very interesting here, because we know that the first Holy Land that ever, the first Holy Land before there was ever any Israel, was a holy land in ancient Kemet called Abydos. And in Abydos, there's a temple called the Temple of Seti I, built by Ramesses II for his father that had just died, Ramesses I Seti I. Ramesses II built this temple at Abydos, at the first holy land, when he was about 22 or something like that. It is one of the most beautiful preserved temples in Kemet, whereas the bas-reliefs in the actual temple, other than the engravings in the other temples, was raised. So in actuality, you could feel it, and it was actually raised off of the wall. And it's done in some of the most beautiful paint, and it's one of the most beautiful temples preserved on the inside. And it's very interesting about this temple. They never show this temple in Kemet, in Egypt. You never see this temple. It's one of the temples that they never show, and they always show all the temple of Edfu, the temple of Luxor, the temple of Karnak, the temple of Dendera, the temple of Isis, the temple of Esna. You see what I'm saying? They always show these temples in most books. They don't really show a lot of temples on TV, not unless they're trying to exploit something. Because to me, the temples are some of the greatest architecture in the world. You start building a pyramid, try building an Egyptian temple. But one temple that they never ever show, and that is the Temple of Seti I at Abydos. I'm collecting Kamite or Egyptian artifacts and Egyptian pictures from the late 80s and the late 80s and the early 90s. And other than Dr. Ben's books, Abyssimbel to Giza, I don't find a lot of pictures of this temple. Now I find literally, other than Seti's book, which was a white woman who spent her whole life at the Temple of Seti I and in that area. And you can also get a documentary on her, and National Geographic did a thing called Egypt, the Eternal Quest. They did it in 1982. They still show it on PBS every now and then. But outside of that little thing with Seti, and outside of Dr. Ben's book, who just so happens to be a black man, you don't get no pictures of Seti I. Now I got two pictures of Seti I, and it's very interesting. I get a picture and a painting, a real nice watercolor done in the late 1800s, when they first started traveling to Kemet. Late 1800s to mid 1800s. I get this beautiful preserved temple, and they quote that it's one of the most preserved temples in Kemet, Egypt. I don't get any more pictures of this mysterious picture that I have in my library at home again. The next time I get a picture, is 1989, and the temple is completely torn apart